All right, the Georgia Bulldogs have defeated the Alabama Crimson Tide here in Atlanta for the 2025 SEC Championship. Final score 28-7. This was a dominant day for the Georgia Bulldog defense, which is playing as well as any defense in college football. They held Alabama to -3 rushing yards, sacks included, but that group was phenomenal today. They only gave up 7 points thanks to some ill-advised penalties, but this was a game that Georgia, from the start, wanted to make a statement. They punched first, they punched often, and when it was time to knock these guys out, that's exactly what they did. This was not a nail-biter. This did not come down to the very end. Georgia was clearly the better team for 4 quarters. Now, it did get a little tricky early in the fourth. Alabama had to get points. Several, it felt like Georgia penalties put them in a position to get their first points on the board. But the Georgia defense was the biggest reason why they won significantly. And again, this was somewhat drama-free, stress-free. And if you're a Georgia fan, you're sitting there thinking, this is phenomenal. What's going on here? I mean, it's blow after blow, stop after stop. And it was the turnovers and big plays that Georgia made early on that gave them momentum in this game. It was not pretty, their first 2 offensive drives, but special teams kicked this game off. Cole Spear, after Georgia's second defensive stop of the game, we're still in the first quarter. That's when the first big play happened. Cole Spear blocks the punt. Georgia gets the ball deep into Alabama territory. It was, I think, 3rd and goal. Then classic Mike Bobo brings in Roderick Robinson, and they run a play designed for him. Alabama had no idea what was coming. That was the last thing they thought or was expecting in that moment. You thought it'd be one quarterback sneak. If you didn't get it, it's 4th and goal. You do it again. Gunnar Stockton rolls out. He hits a wide open Roderick Robinson. They go up 7-0. Then Alabama gets the ball back. Dalen Everett picks off a Ty Simpson pass. Georgia gets the ball right back. And then they score again. They're up 14-0 after another Gunnar Stockton touchdown pass. It was his second, an absolute dart to Dylan Bell on an inside slant. Georgia's up 14-0. Defense is playing outstanding. They go into the half feeling really good. And this place was on the verge of exploding multiple times. The Georgia crowd was outstanding. I mean, there were several big pops in this game. Deservedly so. I mean, there were some big moments. But Alabama gets the ball to start the second half. They get stopped immediately. Another stop at the Georgia defense. And they march back. Nate Frazier scampers from, I think, 8 yards away into the end zone. Place erupts. I mean, this place was going bonkers. The Georgia fans were just as excited as I've seen them in this building in some time. I mean, you could just feel the victory in the air. They went up 21-0. I don't want to say that was the dagger, but it felt like Georgia was going to win the game. You could kind of feel it in the air. You could smell it. They're up 21-0. And it looks like they were on their way to a blowout, which is basically what we got. I think Alabama crossed midfield maybe once. And again, that was from help by DeMello Jones, and who had 2 penalties on that drive early in the fourth quarter that, Georgia just kind of gifted Alabama a touchdown there. They scored on a crazy play, a screen pass where Bro zigzagged all around, for the end zone to score. But before that, they were in a 3rd and long. DeMello Jones has a personal foul. It gives them life. There was another pass interference. Outside of that drive, Georgia gave them absolutely nothing. Let's look at the total yards. Georgia only had 297. So offensively, they had to earn everything. Gunnar Stockton did make some big throws when it mattered. He was safe, efficient with the football. He was not turning it over. Sometimes maybe a little too conservative. He's still kind of hesitating a little bit, and you can kind of tell he wants to throw it down the field, but he has no problem saying, okay, that's not there. I'm either going to check this down or try to escape and make plays with my legs. He ran the ball a lot. I'm trying to dig up the numbers right here. Yeah, he ran 13 times for just 39 yards. Nate Frazier, 13 carries, 52 yards, and a big touchdown. That guy ran so hard. I mean, he got lit up. It may have been Georgia's first offensive possession of the game or their second drive of the game, but Gunnar Stockton was not playing well at all those first 2 drives. It was not great. Nate Frazier gets blown up, comes back onto the field, and just gets tough yards every time he had the ball. There was an 11-yard run where they kind of carried several Alabama defenders, And that's when it clicked to me. That was a statement run. This is a statement drive they're having right now. I think that was before they went up 14-0, but you could feel it. This team needed this win. Kirby needed it. There were no excuses. There were no excuses. This is a banged-up Alabama team, and you could tell. They did not have the guys. They did not have the weapons. They didn't have nearly enough physicality in the trenches. Georgia won the trenches. Even though they didn't run the ball all that well, they ran it for 141, averaged 3.4 yards a carry with 1 touchdown. The longest was 19, but Alabama had nothing. They had absolutely nothing. Again, minus 3 yards total. Now, minus 28 of it was Ty Simpson. He was just getting wrecked. I mean, he was getting hit over and over and over. He's got a dirty jersey because he was on the ground for a lot of the second half. Georgia got to him. That defense was outstanding, making plays in the backfield. They were creating pressure, and that guy gave it everything he could. I'm talking about Ty Simpson. He threw for 212, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 49% completion percentage. Everything was difficult, but he didn't have receivers. Actually, Ryan Williams was still really, really good. They needed to get him the ball more. Jeremy Bernard was the one who scored the touchdown. So they had some playmakers on the outside who helped them a little bit, but they couldn't run the football. They could not run the football. And Georgia's defensive line, that front, they brought their A game. Xavier McLeod was making plays. Quintavious Johnson was making a lot of plays. Let's look at the numbers. Ja'Cory Thomas led Georgia defensively with 6 tackles. He had a sack and a tackle for loss. That was one of his better games. We saw a lot of true freshman Rashawn Dankins, who was in there instead of Janelle Aguero. I thought he flew around and made a lot of plays. C.J. Allen was delivering bruises, man. He was playing hard, and he delivered several big-time hits. I think Ellis Robinson is playing like one of the best cornerbacks in college football right now. That guy is playing better and better and better. His technique is there. No one's getting open on him right now. He's knocking the ball away. He had 2 pass breakups. K.J. Bolden had 1. Dalen Everett had 1. C.J. Allen had another. They sacked Ty Simpson 3 times, but it felt like a lot more. Again, Ja'Cory Thomas had a sack. Chris Cole had half the sack with Quintavious Johnson. And then Zayden Walker, true freshman, he got a sack in there as well. I think we have to talk about Zachariah Branch, who was one of the best players in college football. 5 catches, 53 yards, and a touchdown. Now, let's talk about that touchdown because that came after Alabama tried to fight and claw their way back in. It was 21-0. They score that touchdown, and then they get a stop. And then they get the ball back. They're down 14. They need to march 95 yards down the field, and they can't even get a first down. They end up with a 4th and 2. They're backed up on their own side of the field deep. They go for it. It obviously doesn't work because Georgia's defense was phenomenal all game, and I'll say it 100 times if I have to. So impressive. And that was the game. Georgia takes over. They march right in for a touchdown. It was a classic Mike Bobo screen to Zachariah Branch that put them up 28-7. That was the dagger, a Mike Bobo screen. We talked about it all year long. Gunnar Stockton to Zachariah Branch. And it was the screen that broke loose for 13 yards, putting Georgia up 3 touchdowns. That was the game. I thought Mike did a really good job calling the game. Gunnar was 20 for 26, 156 through the air, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. That's safe, winning, conservative football, but he also made big plays on the goal line, completed 77% of his passes. Did he miss some guys here and there? Yeah. Is he kind of maybe getting off his reads a little too quick to take off and run for a yard or 2? Probably. But at the end of the day, he did what you wanted. 20 for 26, 156. That's not super jaw-dropping, right? There was just not a lot of explosiveness, but they didn't need to be. But he was efficient and terrific when they were around the goal line and needed to make a big play. When they needed to get in the end zone, Gunnar Stockton led the way. And again, he rushed for just about 40 yards on 13 carries. So they wanted to run the football. They did everything they could, and they ran it enough. They ran it well enough to keep the chains moving, to keep that Alabama offense on the sideline, even though that didn't really matter. That Georgia defense was eager to get out there and keep balling out. They knew that Alabama could not move the football on them, and they helped them out on that only drive that they had. But Georgia was clearly the better team, and they were banged up too. I mean, Noah Thomas didn't play. Obviously, Colby Young is out. Drew Bobo, their center's out. So it's not like Georgia brought a healthy team down to Atlanta. Alabama certainly didn't. And you could tell this was not the same Alabama team they were in September. There's nothing scary about that Alabama team out there. And yeah, they're banged up, but so are the Dogs. And I just know the Alabama fans are going to come in here saying, half the team's injured, blah, blah, blah. This is a banged up Georgia team that crushed and dominated a banged up Alabama team. 28-7, right? This was not close. The game didn't really feel like it was ever in doubt. And Georgia was able to kind of cruise thanks to the defense. They were outstanding. I think if you're talking about the best defenses in college football now, in no particular order, if we're just throwing out a top 5, it's got to be Ohio State, Texas Tech, maybe Oklahoma, Indiana, and Georgia. Georgia is in that group of one of the best defenses in college football. They had gone 11 quarters without giving up a touchdown until Alabama scored there. Before that, the last touchdown they had given up was in the third quarter to Texas. Obviously, they didn't give up a touchdown in the fourth quarter in that game. None to Charlotte, none to Georgia Tech. And they didn't give up a touchdown to Alabama until the fourth quarter. This defense is playing phenomenal football. It's going to keep them in every single game. Still probably need more efficient play from Gunnar Stockton, but he played more than well enough to win this game. Would like to see them be more explosive, but at the end of the day, Georgia won by 21 points against a quality but banged up Alabama team, and they did it without a lot of explosiveness on offense and not the best quarterback play we've seen. But I'm not trying to knock Gunnar today. He played winning football, efficient football. They ran the ball well enough, but it was the defense that dominated Alabama today. This is a Georgia win. This was that was a statement. This was a statement. It was a big win for Kirby, big win for the program. Back-to-back SEC titles. There's a lot of other programs out there that would give up everything, arms, legs. It doesn't matter to be where Georgia is today and holding an SEC trophy. Winning that is great. Being SEC champions, that means something. That's special. But to do it against Alabama in this building, this is about as good as it gets. And if you're a Georgia fan, you're going to remember this one for a long, long time. Dominant win by the Dogs, 28-7 over Alabama to win the 2025 SEC Championship. Thanks for watching. You can read more of my thoughts from the press box in this link right here. Make sure you're checking that out. Make sure you're reading everything we have over on dawgpost.com. A lot of it's free. Make sure you are all up to date on this outstanding, dominant performance by the Dogs today. They're SEC champs, and they are looking for more. This team can win a national championship. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you over on Dawg Post.